I'm Shannon Martin. Tonight, a number of rallies across southern Ontario once again hammer the Ford government with a message: hands off the Greenbelt.
The Greenbelt is under attack! What do we do?
From Markham to Scarborough, Toronto and beyond, protesters urge the province to reconsider its plan to develop parts of the Greenbelt. And
the insurance nowadays is too much.
Well, we don't have any claims for many years, and I haven't seen the rates go the other way ever.
The insurance rates are really high.
Here's something Brampton drivers know firsthand. When it comes to car insurance, their premiums can be downright painful. Now, Ontario's Auditor General says she's got proof of postal code discrimination.
For us that are fortunate enough, during the holiday season, it's important for us to give.
Giving back in the spirit of the holidays, the TTC launches its annual Stuff a Bus campaign for people in need.
This is CBC Saturday News.
Hello, thanks for joining us. We've been hearing the outrage for weeks now. People opposing Ontario's new housing bill rallied across much of southern Ontario today. The Premier says the plan is to build 1.5 million homes in the next 10 years. As Deanna Sumanak-Johnson shows us, critics say that comes at the expense of the environment.
A windy December day could not stop them. These protesters say they're here to fight for the land that gives Ontarians clean air, fresh water, and locally grown food, the Greenbelt.
We need the Greenbelt for our food security. Topsoil is just as rare as water. It takes a long time to build it up, and we were promised that it would be protected. It's not.
Affordable housing is super important, and I think we do need it, but I think there's a way to do it without also destroying our green space.
Hands off the Greenbelt! Hands off the Greenbelt!
Protests sprung up across Ontario after Doug Ford's government okayed consultations on the use of a substantial chunk of Ontario's Greenbelt for housing development. The Greenbelt is a swath of 800,000 hectares of farmland and forests stretching alongside the densely populated areas around Lake Ontario. Experts say breaking up this protected land could have devastated effects.
The Greenbelt was envisioned as a way to allow some green space in southern Ontario to persist in an uninterrupted manner. This connects habitats. It's gives corridors for animals to move along, and it protects pockets of biodiversity. So when you start breaking that apart, it breaks the integrity of those connections.
In a statement to CBC News, a spokesperson for Ontario Housing Minister Steve Clark said Ontario needs more housing and we need it now. The spokesperson added that the government and developers are still involved in the consultation process about the Greenbelt, and that the goal is to build housing quickly while still achieving the overall expansion of the Greenbelt in other areas. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson, CBC News, Toronto.
In other news tonight, Peel police say the body of a man trapped underground after an industrial accident in Mississauga has been recovered. Emergency crews were called to a work site at Hurontario and Burnhamthorpe around 3:30 yesterday afternoon. They helped multiple workers escape a chamber that filled up with water after a pipe ruptured. Crews recovered the last worker, a 54-year-old man, shortly after midnight. Despite efforts of first responders, police say he was pronounced dead on scene. The Ministry of Labour is now investigating. Sky-high car insurance rates is something people in Ontario have long complained about. This week, the province's Auditor General released her annual report with proof of postal code discrimination. Tyler Cheese has more now on why you might be paying a higher premium depending where you live.
The Auditor General said this week Ontarians are paying the highest car insurance premiums in the country. Her report also confirms that some are paying more in car insurance based solely on where they live. She said her office obtained 10 quotes for the same vehicle in different residential locations.
Their auto insurance cost ranged from $1,200 a year for an individual living in London, Ontario, to $3,350 a year for somebody living in Brampton.
Some drivers in Brampton feel this practice unfairly punishes them for where they live.
When you haven't been in an accident and you haven't made a claim, it just kind of feels like you're being hard done by with these prices.
It hasn't really affected me. But I have heard from a lot of people that the insurance rates are really high, and they do say like it's a lot of ridiculous prices.
Experts say insurance companies use location-based pricing for a variety of reasons.
Proximity to highways, of course, can be used to calculate how often is this person on a fast-moving roadway where collisions are more likely, right? Are there increased car thefts in this area? Are there increased break-ins, right? Do we know from looking at this postal code that there is a history of heightened property crimes?
But the issue is something the government has looked into. Premier Doug Ford saying in June,
I know we're working on a plan for insurance companies. As far as I'm concerned, it's totally unfair to the people of Brampton or Scarborough that they're going after these people based on their postal code. That's going to come to an end real quickly.
Since then, a bill has been tabled by the NDP in hopes of ending postal code discrimination in the GTA.
Auto insurers are definitely gouging drivers in Ontario, and that we need the government to step up, do the right thing, give drivers in Ontario the relief that they need and they deserve.
The Auditor General says recommendations to address the issue are likely to come once the Financial Services Regulatory Authority has had a chance to conduct its own review. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
It's been a windy day across much of southern Ontario. In downtown Toronto, the weather causing a sign to come partially loose at Eaton Centre. Police closing parts of Yonge and Shooter to both drivers and pedestrians. Pieces of metal were falling along with parts of the banner. Thankfully, no injuries reported with that one. The nasty weather also wreaking havoc to trees across Toronto. Hydro crews responding to several calls today across the GTA for trees falling in the middle of roads and for downed power lines. This one happening in Etobicoke. At one point, 34,000 customers with Hydro One were without power. So that is the perfect introduction to Kabir from the Weather Network. You know, I had the umbrella out today, but it was kind of useless in the wind.
We have to get a windproof one, Shannon. That's the whole thing. They got them at Costco. That's I figured that out a few weeks ago, and we are experiencing some of that strong wind that's going to continue over the next few days. Really and truly, we're going to see this peak through the evening today with a statement coming out, of course, from Environment and Climate Change Canada. But let's talk a bit about what this is going to do for southern Ontario. So a bit of snow squalls coming in off of Lake Huron shores that are going to impact us mostly in light bands, and that snow is going to get blown around a little bit with these strong winds. What have these wind speeds been? Well, right now, Peterborough capping out at 107 kilometers an hour on our Saturday today, and that was the strongest gust that we had seen recorded in southern Ontario. Mississauga up to 79. In fact, 87 for downtown Toronto as well. And if you're up in those condos, sometimes you hear them swaying around. So that's going to expect to dissipate later on today with snow bands, as I mentioned, coming in off of Georgian Bay and Lake Huron shores, not affecting us too much in terms of accumulation. But what could we be seeing in terms of our temperatures this evening into the overnight, where we're going to hover above the freezing mark until we get into the middle of the night? Really, that's when we drop below into those minuses, which means we need to be cautious of that black ice, especially as we saw moisture today that is going to freeze through the overnight period. So definitely bringing caution with warmer temperatures coming our way tomorrow with potential sunshine.
Okay, that's good news. We'll talk to you in a little bit, Kabir. A man has been arrested in connection to the murder of Punjabi rapper Moosewala, who had close ties to Brampton. Indian officials say a man was arrested and detained in the U.S. Sidhu Moosewala was shot dead back in May in the Punjab district called Mansa. He had moved to Brampton in 2016 after getting his engineering degree and quickly rose to stardom. After his death, there were a number of vigils held right across the GTA. We are working still to verify a number of details related to this story. We'll bring you more as we learn them. Well, happening live right now in Toronto, some of Canada's best and brightest are being inducted into Canada's Walk of Fame, among them journalists, actors and actresses, comedians, authors, musicians, and it looks like that's Director X on the red carpet right now. Our Meg Roberts was there at the Walk of Fame earlier today talking to the who's who of Canadian newsmakers.
Hi, Shannon. It's been a long time coming, but tonight some of Canada's most exemplary people are walking down this red carpet. There's more than 700 guests in attendance at Toronto's Beanfield Centre for Canada's Walk of Fame Gala. Tonight is all about celebrating excellence and achievement across numerous disciplines, which is a goal for show officials.
Our mission now is about
celebrating greatness, finding ways to tell their stories, unpacking their incredible journeys so that they really inspire. Why did, Barbara Frum change the face of broadcasting? What was behind that incredible life? How did Lionel Conacher truly, win at 5 sports? What was his life about?
Some of this year's inductees include Barbara Frum, a former journalist with the CBC who will be receiving the Legend Award. Canadian band the Arkells will receive the Alan Slate Music Impact Honor Award. An award-winning recording artist and Canadian Music Hall of Fame inductee Deborah Cox will get her star. But some of last year's inductees will also be in attendance and will have their star unveiling moment this year in lieu of a gala in 2021.
This is what I love about this ceremony and this type of celebration and honor, is that whether you're you're Chris Hadfield and you're gone to the moon, or you're Julie Black, or you're Salome Bay, or you're Donovan Bailey, it's excellent.
Canada's a wonderful place to live, and we have a lot of wonderful people here who should be celebrated and recognized for their work, achievements, and goals.
Now these folks will be joining 200 others who've been inducted into the Canadian Walk of Fame. Shannon.
Welcome back. We have an update to a story we first brought you last week. You may remember migrant workers and advocates rallied in downtown Toronto. They were calling on the Workplace Safety and Insurance Board to end a practice called deeming. Advocates say that's when workers are injured or sick are sent back to their home countries, which they say downloads Canada's healthcare system and workers' compensation system onto the backs of workers themselves. The groups Injured Workers Action for Justice and Justice for Migrant Workers told CBC Weekend News last Saturday if their clients are unable to work because of workplace disability, they should get loss of earning support and health care support. In a statement to CBC Weekend News, the WSIB says foreign agricultural workers who are injured or become ill, including contracting COVID-19 on the job in Ontario, are eligible for WSIB benefits and services for allowed claims, adding decisions on whether foreign agriculture workers are allowed to remain in Ontario fall under federal jurisdiction. However, while in Ontario, migrant workers have the same access to health care, treatment, and assistance with return to work with their original employer as everyone covered by the WSIB. It is International Day of Persons with Disabilities. Advocates will tell you there is a lot of work left to do, and you've seen recent stories here on our program highlighting some of the challenges. A Toronto mom of a teen with a disability forced to camp out in a van near her daughter's school during the day in case her daughter needs help. Another Toronto woman left stranded in Israel after an airline damaged her wheelchair beyond repair. So those are just a couple of challenges, but that means there's plenty of opportunities. To talk more about that, we've reached Emily Chan. She's a social worker with Holland Bloorview Kids Rehabilitation Hospital. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I don't know if people realize, but there's at least 400,000 kids across the country with disabilities. We know the hospital is in the midst of a disability awareness campaign called Imagine Everybody. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Imagine Everybody is our anti-stigma and disability awareness campaign. And what it seeks to do is to raise awareness for disability inclusion and what that can look like. A lot of people don't know what disability inclusion means. And in essence, it boils down to understanding the relationship between how people with disabilities function and how we navigate and participate in our society. So it's really important to continue these conversations because disability inclusion goes so far beyond physical inclusion, which is important as well. So things like having ramps, elevators in buildings, which Holland Bloorview has done an amazing job at. But it goes beyond that. It goes also to attitudinal inclusion, technological inclusion, and systemic inclusion. And I'm happy to talk a little bit more about that as well.
Well, I was going to say, you know, we talked earlier and you mentioned this survey that was done that found only about 1 of 10 people could actually name an example of disability inclusion at their work or school. So that is one of these moments for opportunity. And I know you said you're not fond of the word ally, you prefer partner. And you had some tangible examples of, if people are watching right now, things they could take to work or school on Monday. What would you want them to know?
Absolutely. So I think that when it comes to inclusion, we need to be thinking about the multifaceted approach that we can. And I think it boils down to 3 really great and tangible exercises that we can do, that viewers can do at home, that are very easy. So first, I would say it's really important to listen to people with disabilities. And I'm really lucky to have a platform that you've given me, Shannon, today to share my experiences and my story. But like you mentioned earlier, there are over 400,000 kids and youth with disabilities across Canada. That is so many stories that we can listen to and learn from. So that's the first point I would make about listening to people with disabilities. And also collaborating with us too. You mentioned the word partners. We need more partners in non-disabled folks. We do advocacy work day in and day out. However, we also get tired. We also have lives to live. So it's really important for other people to do their research and do their work, whether it's through listening to a podcast, finding a disabled creator on TikTok or Instagram, or watching different television shows like the one that you might be watching today, to really educate yourself about disabled stories and disabled challenges is a great way to become a partner. And the last thing I will say is that disability inclusion, it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be difficult. It can be easy. It can be tangible. It might take a little bit of planning, creativity, and communication, but it can be done. So for example, I love going to concerts. It's one of my greatest joys. And I recently went to a concert where I had emailed the venue to ensure that my wheelchair would be put in a safe spot and I could get in and out of the venue safely. And so through communication and through planning, we were able to have an experience that was so seamless and so safe. So I bring this example up to illustrate the fact that disability inclusion, it can be so easy to do. It just takes a bit of work and a lot of collaboration with disabled partners like myself.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but those are all really important things for people to be keeping in mind. If people want to learn more, I know they can head to the Holland Bloorview website and check out all the videos on social as well. Emily, thank you so much for being here with us. That's Emily Chan. She's a social worker with Holland Bloorview.
Thank you.
An Ottawa-based startup is hoping to make a big shift in the restaurant industry, offering a new way to create the best experience for customers. Tables sell premium restaurant seating at premium times. The hope is this will also help restaurants cash in.
People spend more money out dining than they do on groceries. And so for restaurants, why is their profit margin still so low? Revenue management is something that's been lacking in the restaurant industry for a long time. And what that is basically 2 things. You've got kind of dynamic pricing and then premium seating.
Tables can be chosen via a 3D tour on the Tables website, with reservations going for anywhere between $5 and $100. Reservation prices can vary because of time of day, prioritization, and restaurant location. The app has already swept across the continent, with eateries across Canada and the U.S. opting in. Well, we're heading into a short commercial break. We'll be right back. In Etobicoke, shoppers are trying to help their community and help spread some holiday cheer by donating toys, food, and clothes to those in need.
The whole idea is to get this bus absolutely full of toys and send a message from the TTC and from the police, but also from every Torontonian to the ones that are struggling and marginalized, that people care about them and that they should have a happy holiday as well.
it's important that he learns that, charity starts at home, and that if we're able, that we should share what we're able to give.
The TTC hosting its annual toy and goods drive called Stuff the Bus. The goods collected will be donated to several organizations across the city. Toronto Police also taking part, aiming to collect enough food and toys to cram a cruiser. Kabir Bagaria is back with us talking about sunshine and warmer temps. I think we can all get behind that.
That's true. And actually, Shannon, I have a question for you. Since we've been dealing with all this wind, I want to know, how do you keep a newspaper from blowing away?
Oh, that's a good one. I have no idea.
Well, I'll give you a clue. You need a news anchor. There we go. I know.
Hey.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to write that down. No,
Yeah,
I like it.
I'm going to go back to talking about what I'm good at. Let's go back to the weather, folks. All right, so for the evening tonight, we're looking at single-digit temperatures, of course, and we will be seeing these fall into the minuses once we get into the overnight temps. But for now, we will be seeing some lake effect snow coming off of Lake Huron shores, possibility for some passing showers up the St. Lawrence as well. But overall, for us in southern Ontario, we're not really looking at too much precipitation. We're really focused here on the winds. And of course, this lake effect snow really joining us in these bands coming in off of Lake Huron, and we will see that blow around. Now, what has the wind been like for us today? We've seen some wind gusts clocked in for Mount Forest at 55 kilometers an hour, Elora at 68, increasing as we get closer to Lake Ontario's shores, with the city of Toronto actually recording up to 87 kilometers an hour and 107 for Peterborough, which is pretty darn windy out there. In fact, when we had that derecho in May, that was 127 kilometers an hour, so not too far off from that. Now, for our overnight tonight, going into the minuses, which means any sort of moisture that we have seen accumulate through the day today could turn into black ice. Be careful of that going into our Sunday afternoon. We will potentially even be seeing some sunshine across southern Ontario, and a little bit of a milder day for us. And then going into our Monday, things do become a little bit more mild in that sense as well. For the next 7 days, here's your outlook. Some rain coming to us toward the beginning of the week, cooling off as we get into our weekend next week, and of course, cool temperatures going down into the minuses toward the end of the week.
Okay, I need to find some weather anchor jokes for you. Keep posted for tomorrow. We'll see you then, Kabir. Thank you.
See you then.
That is our show for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. We're going to see you back here tomorrow at 11, and we're going to leave you now with some shots from a very rainy Distillery Winter Village. Was down there earlier this week. It's still great no matter the